Joining us now is Mike Rafey, an attorney based right here in Atlanta. Mike, thank you so much for your time here. Gun violence is obviously pervasive here in the United States, but rarely are gun manufacturers themselves held accountable. Lawsuits against them are not common, but there was a settlement that was reached with one gun maker over the Sandy Hook massacre for $73 million. But why are these deals not the norm?
In 2005, the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act was signed by George Bush. And what that did was it drastically limited the ways that people could sue gun manufacturers. One of the main ways that remains is if they knowingly violate marketing laws. And that's what that Sandy Hook lawsuit had to deal with. It had to deal with marketing and knowingly market to a group of people, children, that you can't market to, and for an illegal purpose. So other than that, there's pretty much no way to sue a gun manufacturer, and that's why we're left with these problems where we can't solve it through legal action.
Well, focusing on the marketing aspect of this seems pretty subjective. Could that open the door for other cases in other mass shootings then?
I don't think so. Yeah, there were some other states that tried some other ways to get at gun manufacturers. One of them was through a nuisance law. The idea being if a gun or really anything causes a nuisance in the area, then the gun manufacturer would be breaking the law and could be sued. But two federal circuit courts have said that that violates the Constitution. And that's the problem here. We're dealing with the Second Amendment, which limits the ways that gun manufacturers and people who make guns can be restricted. So as a lawyer who helps people who are victims of violent crimes, we're looking at other ways where we can target either the gun makers or the people who allow gun crime to happen on their property.
Such as
here
what?
In Atlanta, we've seen that. Excuse me.
Such as what? Like what ways are you looking at?
Yeah, here in Atlanta, we've seen an influx in crime at gas stations, shopping centers, malls, movie theaters, and apartment complexes. So what we do is we look at the apartment complex, for example, and decide if they've allowed crime to happen on their property. And if they have, then we target the property operator or owner, which the law does allow. So if you're an apartment complex and you have a shooting every weekend and you do absolutely nothing to keep your tenants and their guests safe, well, you're allowing gun violence and very dangerous activity on your property. So what we do is when we have a client who's injured in that manner, we'll take the apartment complex to court, and hopefully we'll able to get justice that way. It's essentially an end around the manufacturers of the guns, and we try to target where the gun crime is actually happening.
So focusing just on the gun manufacturers themselves, does this boil down to more of a legal argument against them, or is it more of an ethical problem of whether they should be promoting guns like this if their intention is to give law-abiding citizens just their Second Amendment rights to own a firearm to protect themselves?
Well, right now we have more guns in this country than people. That's a pretty crazy statistic. If you compare guns with, let's say, a Peloton had a treadmill a year or two ago where 2 children in the United States, 2 children were injured. Like that, there was a recall and those Peloton treadmills were made safer. The argument here, or the problem here, is that guns cannot be restricted. And the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Act Arms, coupled with the Second Amendment, means we can't make guns safer. And there are ways that we can make guns safer. We could make locks better. We could make fingerprint ID a requirement. We could do a whole host of things to make sure that guns don't end up in the wrong hands, that they only remain in lawful citizens' hands. But the government, our states, and lawyers, our hands are tied because we cannot target manufacturers of guns.
It's such an interesting discussion, one that we keep having over and over again with the mass shootings just not stopping in this country. Mike Rafey, appreciate your time and your insight.
Thank you.